Now that we understand the theory of how to work with files and directories, it's time to put it into practical use. And the way we're going to do that is by switching back to our photo gallery project. Remember, we've been working in the B2B sandbox. And in our photo gallery project, we're going to create a log file. Whenever an action takes place, we'll have the ability to call a function that will log a message to a simple text file. And then via PHP, we'll be able to read back in the results of that log file as well. So we'll be able to have a simple text file that has recorded actions. Now, these could be errors or something like that. In this case, we're going to be just working on logging when a user logs in. So every time a user logs in, we'll have a time and date that that user logged in to our log file. In this movie, I'm going to go over the requirements for this assignment and some of the steps that you're going to want to follow, but it's going to be up to you to go off on your own and do it, and to apply everything that you've learned to make this happen. And that's really where I think a lot of the learning is going to take place. So you want to make sure that you do this. And then I'll show you my solution afterwards. The first step is going to be to set up the log directory. So it's going to be in photo gallery/logs. Now, I believe we created that file earlier. You'll want to make sure that it does exist. And if it already exists, you'll also want to make sure that the web server is set as the owner. Remember, we talked about how the PHP scripts are not going to be able to make changes to directories that they don't own. So we'll want to make sure that that's the case, and you'll probably have to do that outside of PHP. We saw how to do that earlier, but just to remind you that from the command line, sudo chown www, if that's the name of your web server, and then the location of the file. And if you're in that directory, it's just logs. Otherwise, you might have to specify more of the path to find that file. But that'll get the log directory set up where we're ready to start creating files in it. Once you have your log directory set up, then we're ready to start looking at the requirements that you're going to need to meet for this exercise. The first is that we're going to need to code the log action. And we're going to do that in functions.php, and the function will be called log_action, and we'll give it two parameters: the action that we want to log, and then a message to go with it. So you'll want to write that PHP code to make that happen. So inside there, you're going to want to make sure that the file exists, and if it doesn't, you're going to want to create a new file. You're going to also want to make sure that the file is writable, and if not, then output an error. And when we add these entries, our log entries, we're going to want to append them to the end of the file. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. We saw an append method earlier. We also saw how we could move the pointer around to write at the end of a file. So I'll let you choose which one of those you want to try. The entries, go ahead and format like I've got there in the middle of the slide. Basically put the date and time, and then the action, in this case login, and then the message. In this case, it's Case Gogolin logged in. That's the username you'll have when the person logs in. And remember to make use of the constants we set up, siteroot and ds for the directory separator. And you'll want to consider how to handle new lines, because at the end of each line, of course, you're going to want to go to a new line. And remember that double quotes do matter for using those special characters like \n and \r. If you use single quotes, it'll just interpret them as being literal \n and r. In order to be a new line character, you need to use double quotes. Once you've done all that and you've got the log action coded, try using it. Put it into admin login.php and see if you can actually log something to the file. Then you go into the log file, take a look, and see if it's there. If not, wipe it out, try again until you get it right. Now, in a lot of instances, it might be fine to just have that log file sitting there, and we could open it with a text editor whenever we want to see it. But we're also going to let our application read it in, because we know how to do that too. So the next step in our exercise will be to read back in the log file from a PHP page. Just like all the other admin pages, we're going to first confirm that the user is logged in already, because this is not something that non-logged in people should be able to do. And we're going to then locate that log file, and we're going to make sure we use siteroot and ds, the directory separator again. We're going to check if the file exists or not, check if it's readable or not, and then if it's readable, read its contents in. And we saw a couple ways to do that. I'll let you choose on how to do it. And then output those entries to HTML so that we can view them in the browser. And there are several ways that you can output those. We saw NL2BR for new line to BR tag. You can use that, or you can use cascading style sheets or an HTML table or something like that. But the overall idea is that we want to have all those entries show up in our HTML page. Once you've got those two parts together, I want you to round out the functionality of this log file by creating a way for us to clear the log file out. And so in that logfile.php, where we're viewing the file, we're also going to add a link that just says clear to log file, and it's going to request a URL logfile.php clear equals true. And then at the top of that same file, before we display the results of the file, we'll say, well, check and see. If clear is equal to true, then clear the logs. And then after you've cleared them, we'll want to make another log entry that lets us know that the log was cleared. So you'll want to clear it out and put one entry in there letting you know that the logs were cleared. Now that's the end of your assignment that you need to go off and work on. And in the next movie, I'll show you the solution. You can peek at the solution if you run into problems, but even better would be for you to go back to the movies where we originally discussed those topics and see how to do it there, and then apply it and see if you can get it working. And as extra credit, if you get all of that working and you want to try something else, try creating a logger class. We've talked about classes, we've talked about files, we're going to now have seen how to work with a log file. You have everything you need to go ahead and bundle all of this information together into a logger class that we could then potentially use in all of our applications going forward. I'm not going to show you the solution to that, but that's just an extra exercise if you want to try it on your own. So give it a shot, and in the next movie, I'll show you my solutions.